The Celestial Nexus Academy floated in the void between star systems, a marvel of engineering where 1,000 species gathered to learn the ways of the galaxy. Within its crystalline halls, Maya sat with impossible stillness in the meditation chamber. Her dark eyes closed, her breathing so shallow it barely registered on the atmospheric sensors. She was human, a Deathworlder, and that fact alone made her an oddity among the soft-skinned, gentle gravity species that dominated the Galactic Council. Essa, a Valorian whose scaled hide shimmered in iridescent blues and greens, watched her from across the chamber. His people were scholars, philosophers who had achieved enlightenment through centuries of peaceful contemplation. He had been assigned as Maya's cultural liaison, a task he had accepted with genuine curiosity rather than the disdain so many others displayed. "How does she do that?" whispered Crix, a Lumian whose translucent form pulsed with bioluminescent anxiety. "Sitting there like she's made of stone. It's unnatural." Essa's secondary eyelids flickered with mild annoyance. "Humans call it meditation. Their world forced them to develop extraordinary mental discipline simply to survive." "Survive?" Crix's voice carried a tremor. "What kind of world needs such things?" Before Essa could answer, the chamber's peace shattered. Thraxzul, a Korgeth warrior caste member whose species prided themselves on physical dominance, stomped into the sacred space, his 4 arms flexed with barely contained aggression, each limb as thick as a support beam. The Korgath had been bitter ever since the combat trials, where Maya had defeated their champion with such casual efficiency that it had become the talk of the entire station. To a species that worshipped strength, such humiliation was intolerable. "Deathworlder," Thraxzul spat the word like poison. "You shame my people with your tricks. Stand and face me properly, or are humans only brave when they cheat?" Maya's eyes remained closed. Her breathing didn't change. She sat perfectly still, as if carved from the same material as her homeworld's mountains. Essa rose quickly. "Thraxzul, this is a meditation chamber. Violence is forbidden here. If you have a grievance, take it to the council arbitrators." The Korgath's mandibles clattered in what passed for laughter among his kind. "The Valorian defends the monkey. How touching. Perhaps you should return to your flower gardens and leave matters of honor to real warriors." Still, Maya didn't move. Her calm was absolute, a tranquility that seemed to emanate from her very being. In the 3 months she'd been at the academy, she had never raised her voice, never shown anger, never demonstrated anything but perfect, serene composure. "I won't ask again, human." Thraxzul moved closer, his massive frame casting a shadow over her seated form. "Stand, or I will make you stand." Essa stepped forward, his diplomat's training warring with his growing concern. "She has done nothing to provoke this. Leave, Thraxzul, before you create an incident that neither of our peoples can ignore." The Korgath's response was swift and brutal. One of his 4 arms lashed out, striking Essa across the face with enough force to send the Valorian crashing into the chamber wall. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the space, followed by Essa's gasp of pain. Blood, violet and luminous, dripped from Essa's shattered jaw. He tried to speak, tried to stand, but his body wouldn't cooperate. Through dimming vision, he saw something that would haunt him forever. Maya's eyes opened. They weren't angry. They weren't filled with rage or hatred. They were simply awake, alert. And in them burned something primordial, something that predated civilization itself, the cold calculation of an apex predator. She stood in one fluid motion, her movements carrying none of the grace other species possessed. Instead, there was efficiency, the kind born from millions of years of evolution on a world where everything wanted you dead. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly. Her voice held no emotion, just simple statement of fact. Thrak-Zul laughed, all four arms spreading wide. Finally, the human shows spine. Come then, let me teach you the price of... He never finished the sentence. Maya moved, not with the explosive speed that many species used in combat, but with a terrible, measured precision that seemed almost lazy. She stepped inside Thrak-Zul's guard as if walking through an open door, her hand reaching up to grip the side of his thick neck. The Korgath tried to grab her with all four arms, tried to use his superior size and strength, but Maya's other hand found purchase on his lower mandible and she twisted. The sound was like breaking wood. Wet. Final. Thrak-Zul collapsed, his massive body hitting the floor with a thunderous crash. His breathing was ragged, labored. He wasn't dead, Maya's precision had ensured that, but his neck was broken. His spinal column severed at exactly the point that would paralyze, but not kill. She released him and stepped back, her face returning to that same serene calm. Then she knelt beside Essa, her hands gentle as she examined his injuries. Medical team to Meditation Chamber 3, she spoke into her comm unit, her voice steady. Priority 1, Valorian with facial trauma and possible cerebral trauma. Korgath with C3 vertebrae fracture and complete paralysis below the neck. Crix and the other observers stood frozen, their minds unable to process what they'd witnessed. One moment, a meditative human. The next, calculated violence executed with surgical precision. Essa looked up at Maya through pain-hazed eyes. Why did you wait? Maya's expression softened slightly. Because violence should always be the last option, not the first. I gave him every opportunity to choose differently. She glanced at the fallen Korgath. No triumph in her gaze, only sad resignation. On Earth we have a saying, speak softly, but carry a big stick. The stick doesn't have to be metal or wood. Sometimes it's simply knowing when calm has run its course. The medical teams arrived within minutes, their scanners chittering as they processed the scene. The head physician, a crystalline who had treated hundreds of species, stared at Maya with newfound understanding. You come from a death world, the physician said slowly. We knew this academically, but we never truly understood what it meant. Maya helped Essa onto the medical float stretcher with surprising gentleness. Earth taught us that survival requires balance, the ability to be peaceful but the capacity for violence when all other options are exhausted. We meditate not because we're naturally calm, but because we have to learn control. As the medical teams departed with both patients, Maya returned to her meditation spot. She sat down, crossed her legs, closed her eyes, and within seconds, her breathing had returned to that impossibly shallow rhythm. To any observer, she looked exactly as she had before, a picture of perfect tranquility. But now, everyone in that chamber understood the truth. Humans were Deathworlders not because they were inherently violent, but because they had mastered the hardest lesson of all, how to be gentle despite having every reason not to be, and how to unleash precisely measured force when gentleness failed. The calmest waters, after all, often run the deepest, and hide the strongest currents beneath their surface.